welcome to the podcast, everybody, where we're doing our first interview. Aiden is not here right now due to the fact that he was not able to make this time. But I have with me Inquisitor Vuln.
Hey guys, hey everyone.
Now, Mr. Vuln, lately you've been popping up. I know we've known each other for a while, and you've actually been a part of some of the productions here with a bit of the editing and questions I've had about lore. You're kind of the lore master I go to. Yeah, so I mean, at least compared to my knowledge, that's what you are to me for it. So, which you've proven quite well, though, in your new Primarch projects, I believe is a series name.
Yeah, the Primarch Project series. That's been fun to do.
Yeah, man, I caught the Conrad Curse is kind of what caught my interest at the very beginning when I saw that you were putting that out. I know, we've done like tiny things in between before all that, but that was the first big thing I saw you put out, and I was like, yo, I didn't know he did a deep dive on that. And then I saw the Sanguinius one, and man, that was some detail that I mean, I've heard the majority of his story, but like, damn, there are some things I didn't even know about that you were throwing in there. We'll start with the Primarch project just because it's the biggest hot thing right now for you. One of the greatest things that I like about what you do is you're good at, separating your opinion to the facts.
Yeah, I try my best to do that because I'm guilty of it sometimes where I'll talk about the lore for Warhammer 40K and I'll say something casually that's my opinion and not something that's actually based on the lore. And I noticed that a lot of people do that, right? So when I came up with the idea to do the Primarch Project videos, there's the aspect of you want to create something that people will listen to that they find information in, right? But at the same time, you want to make something unique because there are hundreds of YouTubers who are doing Primarch Project series. So what I decided to do was, okay, I'm going to give this information that most people don't know about their Primarch and their legions, but I'm also going to put in my theories to make my videos a little bit more unique. And so to do that in a video, I have to say, well, that's my theory, or that's my opinion, or that's how I interpret the lore. Because at the end of the day, all that anyone can give you is an interpretation of the lore. Like, we have very little lore about these topics. And so when someone says this is what happened in the lore, chances are you should probably do your own research about it, because the most that we can offer and add to what we have is our own opinion. So yeah, I try to be very careful about how I present information.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's not like we're the ones writing it, getting it published.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
where exactly did all this begin? I don't think, in fact, I didn't actually get around, if I remember correctly, to editing that first interview I did with you. And I'll backtrack on that. I did a quick interview with the Inquisitor beforehand, a long time ago, but we had some connection issues. So this is round two. So,
Yeah.
how exactly did you start off with the channel?
I don't know. I think I just started off. I think it was during the pandemic that I started making videos because we were all locked in and everything like that. I just decided to talk about lore. What drove me to make content for the channel was that I was frustrated that people were interpreting the lore in a certain way. And so I was like, okay, let me present my opinion since everyone's sharing their opinion. And that's when I started doing the lore-based videos on the channel. I think my first lore-based video was like the Celestial Lions, and the quality is horrible, and it was just me talking through a laptop mic, and it was bad. But some people actually really liked it, and that encouraged me to continue. And it went from that to how to make a homebrew, which is, to date, my most watched video. Even though the
Oh, wow.
quality is horrible. Yeah, like the quality is horrible and everything, but it has like over 6,000 views, and it's still something that people watch. I don't know. I don't get it. Maybe the information might be useful, but the quality was just so bad. But yeah, it just moved on from there.
I think I recall seeing some of those quality dips you're talking about, but that's not a big deal. I guess it's not a big deal when you're actually doing something that's more than just copy and paste. You know, Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it helps get the interest. I've seen some lower quality stuff that I've done, and I thought to myself like, well, why still have it on there? But then, what I'm assuming you kind of have that because I feel like you have that natural tendency to look back at your old stuff, and you're like, this is where I came from. Because yeah, after knowing you for a while, that's kind of like the vibe I get off of how you look at your things. Not in a bad mindset. It's like this is where I came from. It's like started here and you're starting to grow, especially in the content itself.
Yeah, it's like you're right that we all have a tendency to look back. But what encouraged me to keep those videos on the channel was because primarily that, like, I had friends who told me, I think you were one of them as well. Like, you might as well keep it just to see where you've started, you know. But also later on, as I started making more videos, it started to become a thing where I started looking at the channel and looking at what I could do with it, and it actually benefited me to keep those videos up. It was like a combination of those two things.
Awesome, dude. Yeah. Yeah. So, were there any moments during that time where you were kind of like, is this something I want to continue, or do I just want to go ahead and stop here and carry on with something else?
Um, at the time, I was just doing it for fun. And because I was doing it for fun, it was fun for me to do. I like talking, I like explaining things, I like deep diving and all that stuff. So it was just fun. I never really thought about stopping it, but I didn't take it too seriously. You know, I'd make a video every now and then, and it was around that time that I started shaping the image of Inquisitor Vuln. I mean, it had been a thing before that, but I started using that as a guide for what I was going to post on the channel because in Warhammer 40K, Inquisitors are they're basically like the CIA or the FBI. They investigate a lot, right? So I was like,
Yeah,
all right, cool. Let me use that as a as a guide to what I'm going to post on the channel. And then over time, it just got a little bit more serious and consistent.
does the Inquisitor have a favorite chapter or even homebrew?
I'm going to be biased and I'm
I
going to
know.
say that.
I know. That's the reason why I asked.
Shameless plug.
Yeah.
My favorite chapter is the Void Lions chapter. They're my homebrew chapter. To this day, I still work on them. I literally just got some more bits for them in the mail before we started. So they're my favorite homebrew chapter. But I also follow other people who also have their own homebrews. Like I'm a really big homebrew kind of guy. Like I think I like them more than I like some of the more established chapters. There's a homebrew called the Lupine Heralds, which is they're like Space Wolves but more Viking. One of my favorite homebrews, and there are a few others, but as far as the official chapters, um, I would say that's hard. There's so many official chapters. I would say any chapter that wait, okay, you know what, I'll say I'm a fan of the Seventh Legion. I'm a fan of Dorn and his Legion. So all of the Dorn chapters I'm a fan of, but if I had to choose one, I would say the Executioners because they are hardcore.
Oh wow, that's actually a name I wasn't expecting. I mean, I've heard them. I've heard of them. I don't know too much, but yeah, that's like one of the far off distant what chapters I hardly ever hear about.
Yeah, they're going through a lot of stuff right now. They're on a penance crusade because they sided on the wrong side of a conflict, but they are pretty badass. They have a lot of good lore and awesome paint scheme.
I understand. Imperium Space Marine is heavy. Is there anything outside of that though that you'd like to include under the Inquisitor banner, like a part of the official character, or lore wise, you'd be kind of like getting into in the future, or is it just kind of strictly Imperium slash Space Marine?
I actually am collecting a rather large army of Necrons. Um, I currently collect the Ogdebek dynasty, which is a dynasty that is not seen a lot, but they should be seen because, according to the lore, they're the closest dynasty to Terra, and they fight humanity all the time. So
Oh wow.
I actually have, yeah, right? Like
Oh, I
they
never heard about that.
they should really be um more in the spotlight. And in fact, when GW released the images or the description of the Zarekin dynasty, I thought it was the Ogdebek dynasty. Like I remember commenting like, "Oh, I'm so glad that you guys are sharing the Ogdebek dynasty." And it was like yeah. So one of my projects now, I'm of course growing the army, but my goal for the year, by the end of the year, is I want to have a Tomb World table. So I'm collecting terrain for that, and it's gonna be so cool.
Yeah, if of course, and all his links will be in the description. But if y'all haven't seen his Instagram, there are some awesome photos. This man is like perfecting the art of darkness within the photo. You know, like there's a sweet spot you're hitting every single time, man. It's almost as if like it's like a 3D extreme painting. Every time I glance, I see it, like scrolling up, and I'm like, "Yo, whoa, what?" And then I realize it's you, and you've taken the photo. I'm like, "Nah, okay." That caught me off guard first. I thought it was like a 3D, model of it.
I appreciate that. I really like photography and I like taking pictures of miniatures. And of course, if you combine that with wargaming, you can tell a story through pictures. And so that's something I really like to do. I use different angles and like it's hilarious how it looks in person. Like when I set up like a set, as I
It
say. Like
always does.
but when I take pictures, it just looks so awesome. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then what I've been doing recently for my channel is just putting them in like a slideshow kind of situation and having the story being read over them. So that's my thing. That's part of the hobby for me.
Yeah, slowly starting to understand the production slash video editing methods of storytelling. Um,
Ye-
yeah, man, I no, I really say that because that's the way I've seen a lot of like miniature artists go. You know, like they start to understand that method, and you could just see the expansion of how everything comes together.
Yeah.
It's awesome to catch. Just because of the effort it takes to do it, I never think about that. I love seeing the results. But as you said, the effort it takes to get those good shots, man, that's always like it's always forgotten.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, man. So with the void lines and everything, are they how close? Like if GW says, "Oh, once a year we'll accept a homebrew chapter into the lore," but it's got to be, it's got to stick to lore. How close is the how close are they to actually, lore accurate if they were to be accepted?
There, so I had to find a lot of loopholes to make them because I wanted them to be a combination of all the themes that I like in Warhammer 40K. So abhumans and like jungle death world and I seem to have this thing with like dying forces because my yeah like my void lions and the necrons both in their lore have like extreme cancer like all like that's the reason why the necrons are what they are, but
Yeah.
also the void lions, they suffer from a gene curse that basically is like hyper cancer and they die. So it's
Damn.
like, yeah, I seem to have this like theme of that, and that's actually for the Void Lions purposeful. I never really talk about the more serious themes of the Void Lions because they're too real world, but that was definitely purposeful. But I don't know, they're they're close enough to the lore that they could get a pass. But the problem is in modern, Warhammer 40K and the Space Marine lore, everything is moving toward Primaris, and the Void
Oh yeah,
Lions.
you're right. I completely didn't think about that.
Yeah. So like the Void Lions, their lore clashes with the existence of Primaris. I mean, they do have Void Lion Primaris Marines, but because I don't like Primaris, it's not that I don't like them. It's just that I don't prefer them. The chapter also doesn't like Primaris, so so it's a problem, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I've always liked the idea of renegade chapters. They're not exactly chaos. They're not exactly following rules, but they exist and they've chosen to just stay away. um,
Yeah,
I
I
think
like that.
yeah, they sound like that category right there, and I like
Yeah.
that. It gives them a lot of room to be human, so to say, not exactly just dogmatic all the time.
Exactly, exactly. But they're a pretty dark group. There's a lot of beliefs and chapter cult practices that are just odd. Um, but yeah, they're definitely a little bit more human than most other Space Marine chapters. But at the same time, they're not really attached to life in any kind of, like
Well,
with any
yeah,
passion.
of
They just,
course, the hypercatcher would definitely do that to you.
yeah, yeah, definitely for real.
Now, for the Necrons you're working on, what exactly is going on there? I'm not gonna say too much because I'd rather not step on any any accidental spoilers there. But what are you working on?
Uh, so I'm working on a video or a video series using photography, like we talked about earlier, called The Machine War. And it's about the Ogdebec dynasty defending a territory of the Necron Empire from the Imperium. So it's going to be like this visual narrative project um, where the Imperium is going to keep attacking the Ogdebec dynasty, and their job is to defend it. And that's part of why I'm making a Tomb World table, because at the end, the Imperium or the Imperial forces actually make it to the surface, and then they have to battle through the Tomb World. So, if you thought my pictures were nice now, wait until you see like the Tomb World and like Imperials running. It's gonna be awesome.
Oh, dude, yeah, no, I've starting to see some of your terrain build-ups. You're like, I knew something was coming because I was like, he normally doesn't show terrain; it's just the model, but it's getting there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's sweet, man. I guess Necron's kind of a unique route. It's got a heavy lore, but it's not exactly the biggest Xenos that's always talked about.
Yeah. And like they should be talked about a little bit more, at least deeper into their lore because they're so cool. But it's
Honest,
also hard. It's also hard to talk about Necrons or like right from their perspective because if you've been alive for what like thousands, millions of years or whatever, what drives you? If you can't die, like like like
yeah,
what gives you motivation?
no, you make a point. That's pretty true. It's hard to, and also with like just Warhammer being as old as it is, it's hard to keep up a fresh. Everybody's gonna like reason behind whatever they do.
Yeah.
um, no, that makes complete sense. Them sleeping for that long is a good idea. Actually, it helps to it helps to do like some sort of hotspot lures that'll pop up and ma- make it dynamic.
For real, like loopholes in Warhammer 40K are where the most creativity is found. Like they were asleep for this long, cool. So we can actually make up some stuff about what happened to their tomb world in the process. And it
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Going back to your channel in general, um, do you have or do you think of any collaborations coming your way, or like you trying to reach out, or is it more so just pure your content and what you're doing?
Well, I definitely look forward to our work together.
Of
For
course.
those who are listening, we're going to be working together for a few projects. But for right now, I want to continue doing lore videos, but even though I'm doing lore videos, the purpose of the channel is those visual narratives. Like they don't get a lot of views or they don't get as much views because, they're more of a personal project, but they're the thing that's actually driving the channel forward. So, I have a few friends that I want to get involved with that. They just like me, I've made my own little piece of the Warhammer universe called the Zahira sector, and just like me, they've made their own systems as well. So when I go to their place, it's like I'm playing in their system, and we all make this story together. And so I want to bring that to the channel. I want to share that with people, where it's kind of be like Zahira versus Strife system or Zahara
Ah,
versus Gojira, like, and make little battle reports because that's what really drives me and motivates me in my channel.
yeah, no, that brings on a lot of opportunity.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's
And
one. Yeah, go ahead.
recently, I mean, with the new developments of the channel, it's also opened me up to a few opportunities as well, like affiliate programs and things of that nature. So it's actually really cool. I might even start doing miniature reviews, but we'll see where that goes. I'm still trying to learn the ropes of having the channel where it is right now.
Yeah, it's that sweet spot right before you get into like the big and best stuff you can start doing. Like that starts
Yeah,
getting noticed. Yeah, you're like right there. The door just opened. You're like, yo, look at all this stuff here.
exactly, exactly.
That's awesome, man. What do you think of the hobby in general? I know it's a heavy loaded question, but summarize as best you can without having to go on rants.
Do you mean like as far as the game is concerned, or the community, or what aspect are you asking?
Lore and then community. That's kind of like the bigger chunks of when people say hobby.
Copy. So with the lore, I don't know. It's the fact that GW is pushing the lore forward is good to some extent, but in other extent it's not because it's messing up people's perception of their own armies, when it comes to what their armies are doing, like the Grey Knights or the Dark Angels. That's great,
Yeah,
that's pushing forward, but it's also conflicting. Like GW is pulling a lot of strings and making a few more holes in the lore just to make the changes that they are making. um Lionel Johnson, him coming back, that makes sense. But let's say someone had a Dark Angels army and they had a specific lore about it, or they've made a certain chapter. Now that chapter's lore is kind of thrown off with the Lion's return. So now it can affect a person's army, why they play, etc. So on one hand, it's good, but on the other hand, it can create some problems. So in regards to lore, it's good and bad. It's uh to sift through all the lore changes, you kind of have to ignore some things, you know.
yeah, that's true.
As far as the community is concerned, oh, it's like I I think this is a great community, but at the same time, it can get a little bit awkward.
Well, I'll throw in there. I know the publicity is one reason why it may be getting awkward, and not like in a negative context, more in a new person showing up, seeing the segment that they saw, and like thinks they think that's just the entire thing, and a lot of heads clash when that starts happening. Like,
Yeah, the mainstream, the hobby becoming mainstream is like I said before, good and bad. Like we want more people to enjoy this hobby because it's an amazing universe. The great miniatures and all of those things, and it's good socially too because you learn rules, you learn how to interact with people. It's cool, but some people don't know how to uh,
adapt.
divide. Adapt is one, yes, because
Yeah,
there's always going to be people who are moaning about how things were. But then there's also like respecting the boundary between the real world and the hobby is just so hard for some people. And it causes a lot of issues. As an admin to a large 40K group, you just see all the time like people doing these unnecessary things with the hobby or using the hobby as a platform for things that have nothing to do with the hobby. It happens all the time. So the community is great. It's just also you have to ignore a few things if you want to be a part of it.
yeah. And yeah, I was actually thinking about mentioning that the 40K group you're a part of and you're admin of, and one thing I really like at how you approach everything is very, very first off very respectable to others. Like that's the first thing, and then secondly, you're very neutral when it comes to it. Like there's no hyping up one side and there's no like downplaying another side. It's just exactly as you said, keep it separate. Don't use the opportunity just to promote whatever banter you're trying to promote, and that's going to be harmful or negative towards somebody else's. experience in the hobby. um,
Yeah, because like it's not like I'm getting paid to be an admin, but I take it seriously because you know the rules are really good rules and they help more people come in, they help more people feel safe and like share their hobby, and that's what the goal is. So when it comes to enforcing the rules, I literally only have to lean back on the rules. It's not about how I feel about it, it's about what's allowed and what's not allowed, and that actually helps me to maintain a neutral stance.
yeah, no, that's pretty good, man. You don't see that too often in life. So, life lesson. All right, well, we're kind of hitting the limit on the time here. But before I let you go, man, is there anything you want to say, anything you want to promote, or any words of wisdom you'd like to give?
um Well, I mean, shameless plug again. If you haven't checked out my YouTube channel, please do. It's Inquisitor Vuln. I also have an active Instagram account called Inquisitor Vuln 40K. And I would like to promote your productions as well because
Oh,
you
thank
have been
you.
doing amazing things as well. Pathios Productions on YouTube, amazing. And that's why I'm looking forward to working with you with a few projects because your work is great. Um, and I look forward to the things that we can create together.
I appreciate it, man. And if you didn't catch the name, it's Inquisitor Vuln. You'll catch all the links in the description. Don't worry, don't fret. And any Warhammer related stories that I may have written on the productions, you'll catch in the playlist. Go into playlist. All unofficial Warhammer 40k stories are there. Inquisitor Vuln's got his entire channel dedicated to Warhammer. So be sure to check all that out. And that is all the time we got for today. I appreciate you all coming and listening to this interview.
Peace out, guys. Thank you for listening.